are officially, oh, it says you are live. I don't know if you can
Great.
see that.
Welcome.
Awesome sauce. Welcome.
Yes.
Good afternoon. I am so glad to be here with Joan right now. We've been talking about Whole Foods and staples and life in 2021. It's been awesome, but it's really the thing right now. And we've just been talking about life and how grateful I am that I have the opportunity to chat with her this afternoon about how it all centers literacy and where we are on digital literacy. So welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you this afternoon, Joan?
I'm great. And I want to thank you for inviting me, Ms. Tiffany, to this session. I've been looking forward to it for many weeks, and it's been fun communicating with you in preparation for it. And I'm very happy to be here to offer some practical tips and strategies to help readers.
I'm excited. I really am. Having researched your system, as soon as our dear friend in common, Irie, oh my gosh, I just love Irie. I talk about her, and I say, my husband always says, oh, you're so mushy. And I tell her, like, Irie, I hope I'm not being mushy. But I'm so grateful for her because we had a conversation a bit back as we do normally. And she's like, Joan would be good. And I said, okay, I'm going to reach out to her. And when I did, I was so taken back by your response, like, absolutely, and I was just so grateful because it proves here again how vital community is and how important it is to have a network, especially when you're tackling illiteracy and functional illiteracy. Mm-hmm. So again, thank you for being here. Thank you to Irie, our dear friend. Hopefully she's watching. Hi, Irie. It's 11 o'clock in Wales.
11, yeah. Wales. She would tune in. She did send me a little quick message.
Yeah, she stays up all times of the night.
Bless her.
I know. Yes. So I'm so glad to be here. So let's just dig in because we've been talking about this, like you said, for a couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. And what we know to be true is that a couple things. I just read an article on, I believe it was Edutopia, that said, no, it was the Hawk Foundation at UT, University of Texas, that talked about bullying and special needs education. A lot of parents, regardless of the pandemic and regardless of vaccinations, are still opting for homeschooling as an option, as a primary option. Mm-hmm. And they are for, again, a number of reasons. And I just want to dig right into that. The climate and the educational climate has drastically changed with the pandemic and so forth, right? But those of us who've been in education, we've known that this system needed some improvement well before the pandemic, right? Yes. We've known that readers have been struggling for some time and that we need to get them strategies that actually are tried and true, that are scientifically researched and that work. And now, with everything that's compounded, it seems that we're losing even more readers. So I'm just going to get to it. Joan, tell me in your wildest dreams, what would you imagine we need to do to just rally up all of the readers that are struggling to get them on a level playing field so that they are ready to engage in academic integrity? What do you think?
Wow, where do I start? First of all, we need to know where they are when we start to help them. So many parents and educators assume they have a certain amount of cognitive ability and background knowledge, but also that they can do certain things with regard to reading, that they have certain skills that they've already developed. Well, it's already been determined. I don't have the statistics in front of me right now, but we do know that they've lost a lot of ground during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. Reading scores and reading skills have declined since the pandemic. Even if kiddos have been intermittently in the classroom, it's too, interrupted, disruptive, back and forth to home, to school. What day is it? Where do we go? That does not help with the continuity of learning or reading or whatever you're doing. So that we have to meet them where they are first. And then we have to, if we're willing to do that, we have to determine where are they.
Right.
Okay. And you want to do that without any more testing. But that would involve some one-on-one with the kiddos. Again, COVID prevents a great deal of that. But parents can be very observant or learn to be observant, to look for certain things that they may have not even thought were important. Is the child reluctant to read aloud when he or she is asked?
Mm-hmm.
Don't force them. Don't force them. Model for them.
Mm-hmm.
Read aloud to them, and then let them allow them to follow along in the book and use their finger. That's a big no-no for many teachers. Oh, we can't use a finger. We shouldn't be doing that. But if the child needs it, we need to allow it. And for as long as they do need it, there are other things they can use too. But anyway, we need to give them strategies if they are struggling. We need to provide them modeling and read aloud to them. We need to provide at least a couple of books in their living environment. And if you have more than a few, you are super blessed. So place them in various areas of the house in small baskets at the foot of the steps or stairs, next to the fireplace if you have one. If not, next to a doorway, next to their bedroom, inside their bedroom, next to the TV as an alternative to television sometimes. There are so many things you can do. And then there are the children who are truly struggling. And there may be something that is a real impediment for them that no one is aware of, even their teacher, because these are silent and invisible differences in learning and reading, and even some disabilities. So we need to help them get past their challenges, and there are different ways we can do that without spending any money, truly. Of course, we can spend money. We can get comprehensive private testing, but $2,500 is the base price of that. And I don't know too many parents who have that readily available. Normally, kiddos would be tested in their school district or in the special school district if their metropolitan area is blessed with such an entity. But if not, then private evaluation and testing is very expensive. So there are various things they can do, but that's another topic. What else can they do? They can allow for different ways to approach reading that they may not have been instructed to do at school. Perhaps writing is a problem, which is very much linked to reading.
Totally.
Writing can be a real problem for a variety of reasons. We can put names on it. I prefer not to at this point. But something simple like if a child is struggling to write letters or sight words or what have you, and you've got to be indoors, you can't be somewhere else, take out some old shaving cream that may have expired and spray it on a paper plate or a large paper tray, or even a tray that needs a little extra cleaning, and preferably with some sides on it, and ask them to draw with their finger each letter of the alphabet, if the alphabet is what needs to be learned, or each sight word that needs to be learned. And the kiddo will have a tactile, kinesthetic experience that will imprint upon their brains that this is one way to learn the alphabet, and they'll retain it much more readily and for a longer period of time. Those are just some basic ideas.
I love it. I love it. First of all, just to summarize what I heard, which I totally wholeheartedly agree with, is we have to ask questions. Mm-hmm. We have to be open to saying, okay, this is my child, this is my student, what have you. But this really robust ethics of care model says the only way we can find out where you are is engage with you. And it doesn't need to be a test. I don't need to prove for whatever statistical reason that you do or don't have this prior knowledge. Mm-hmm. I am looking to discover what it is that I can assist you with, because there, again, it's layered. I love that you address that because, again, I thought it was just, common sense, but I joke about common sense not being common.
Right.
But it's not. Right. I also love that you talked specifically about the learning style in this kinesthetic, audio, the sensory, right? And the perception of it all. Again, manipulatives, we have to understand that again, when I used to go to the classrooms like the little babies, because I would do like 4 to 6, it depending on where they have me, and they would be like, the kids would, oh, I don't know how to read. And I'm like, yes, you do. You do know how to read. There are many forms of reading, and it all, requires your sensory being engaged. But I love that you're having this broader conversation and these thoughts in terms of what parents can do, how we can ask questions, how we can meet the learner where they are, how we can use other resources, because you might not have $2,500 laying around, right?
Right.
We can use another third party. We can engage with, tactile. We can engage with these textures and these other dimensional resources that we have together. I love that. I think, and Kalila she's popping in.
Good.
My assistant.
Welcome,
Hey, Kalila. She said that's a great sensory exercise, to have children engage, because you do want it to be indelible, right? You do want them to remember, right? And to recall. And you don't want them to recall just based on performance, because that's dangerous. It doesn't say that you comprehend. So I love those. Okay. All right.
And you can do that in the garden with soil. You can draw the letters. If you live in a beach community, you can draw it in the sand. So do it where you are.
I totally agree. Gosh, wouldn't that be wonderful if we lived on a beach?
Oh, yes. Dream on, right?
I know. So then let's go back. So you gave me that. Thank you for that.
That's okay.
When did you know that you wanted to do reading focus cards? When did you know that?
Oh, wow. Okay. My background is in education for about 20 years, teaching middle school.
Middle school.
And yes, middle school, not primary, not kindergarten, no preschool. And it was K through 8. Okay. Mostly 7th and 8th grade. And we were working in a parochial school environment where at the time we did not have the luxury of having a special needs teacher on the faculty. And because of that, an 8th grade class of reading is the last stopping off point when kiddos can't focus and read. And I was there with them, and I knew something wasn't right. And it wasn't with all of them. Some of them were very talented and gifted, and well, even they could once in a while have a challenge, okay, with reading, believe it or not. But that's another topic entirely. But there were some children who could not focus and read. And one child, one morning, she came to me and she goes, Mrs. Brennan, on the QT, she says, Dad didn't give me my ADHD medicine this morning. Oh. And wouldn't you know, it was the first year we ever instituted a 90-minute block for language arts. Reading, English, and spelling in 90 minutes at a time. And I would break it up into 45 and 45 because I was able to.
Yeah.
But this child wasn't going to make it through the first 45 if she didn't have her medicine on board. So I said, well, let me think about this a minute. And lo and behold, on my desk, there was a manila envelope, a manila folder that was due to go to the recycling bin. I'd used it. It was tattered and torn. But I thought, I wonder if I could cut something that would help her focus on a line of text and she'd be able to, kind of stay with us and know what we read. And it was really on a wing and a prayer kind of thing, intuitive, maybe a parent of 4 sons, I don't know. But I cut out of that manila folder, cut a 3x5 card type structure with a slit in the middle, about a 1/2 inch wide and 3-4 inches long. Closed on all 4 sides because it's a 3x5 card type structure. And I said, I don't know if this is going to work, but why don't you try it and see if you put this window over each line of text and see if it'll help you cut out all the distractions that are around that line you need to pay attention to, and see if you can read just 2 pages. Well, she did that dutifully because she was really motivated when she had something in her hands. Okay?
Right.
And she read 2 pages. She says, I think I know what I read. I said, really? Let's find out by answering a few questions. And we did this all orally. And it's in the back of the room whispering while the rest of the class is reading on task. Okay. I don't want to draw attention to her.
Totally
zero in on her challenges. So she did it. She answered all the questions correctly. And I said, that is really excellent. You did a wonderful job. She said, can I take this to my next class? And I said, well, sure. Who would say no to that?
Right.
And that, didn't know it at the time, but that became the first prototype for the reading focus cards. We added tactile features to it to make it feel velvety, or we have a new one, more texture, where it feels like a basketball skin, which principals in our area asked me for. There were 5 principals at a meeting. They go, Joan, do you have anything that's sort of like a basketball skin? And I go, I'll check into it. Well, the price of it was really through the roof, and I had to adapt. And I went to my manufacturer, and he said, I've got this in the back room. What do you think of it? Lo and behold, it only comes in black, but it sure felt like a basketball skin or close to it for a price that would be approachable. And that's what we did. And I'm waiting for a big order from him right now to be cut and made out of this same material, because it's one of our number 1 sellers. It's black textured grip. But anyway, I'm not here to market, believe it or not. I'm here to share tips to read. And so again, tactile is important, but that's the story of how it became a necessary tool, or a needed tool for this child. And then parents heard about this, and they said, well, will it help a child with dyslexia? And I didn't know.
Yeah.
So I went to a group here in St. Louis. It's the Center for Vision and Learning. They are a behavioral optometric group, which they're trained at the University of Missouri in St. Louis School of Optometry. It's a very unique program there, the pupil project. But anyway, the medical professionals there are very much into the introduction of color and focus and tracking and decoding, and they're able to test comprehensively when a child is asked to be given an eye test. When you go to an ophthalmologist or a regular optometrist, they will not necessarily do, and many of them are not capable of doing, what is called a comprehensive eye exam. That involves the parts of the brain that are utilized during reading and learning and focus. And optometrists are looking at the retina and the eye and the optic nerve. They're not looking at neurological connections, but a behavioral optometrist will do that. Mm-hmm. There are others too, pediatric behavioral pediatricians are also good at evaluating, but that would be one way to do it. I have to tell you that many times insurance will cover the testing and the declaration of what needs to be done, but it will not cover the actual therapy. Yeah. And that is so expensive. So what we do is bridge the gap between no services and expensive services beyond your pocketbook to help adjust the reading environment is what it is. The reading environment, the reading experience for kiddos, because we introduce color, because what happens is the white page background for kiddos with a black text on top of it can be too stark. Mm-hmm. And changing the background color can ease the eye and make things so much more comfortable, and therefore increase reading stamina. They can read for longer periods. A lot of people don't know why they can't read for more than 20 minutes, 30 minutes. A lot of it is the matter that they're reading, what it's physically comprised of. Mm-hmm. Black and white. Mm-hmm. We need help. Many need help, more than you know. And there may be individuals who read late at night, medical students, law students, nursing students. They read all day in their classes, and then they have to go and study at night in the wee hours. Their eyes are tired. I'm hearing from more and more of them who need help.
Yeah.
And they don't have any necessarily any reading challenges in a normal day, but late at night, it's too much text, overwhelmed, eyes hurt. It's all of that.
It's totally. We just talked about that. I was like, Joan, we were talking about our glasses, and I said, same thing, read all day, all day, all day. Oh, and I'm so glad I love it, but it's overwhelming because when I'm ready to read for pleasure, I'm like, oh my God, I don't even want to look at a book, you know?
Right.
So I could see that, I can hear that. And from a neurological perspective, I love that you mentioned, we talk about optometry and really like digging deeper into, okay, so it's not just you can or can't see. It goes beyond that.
Right.
I love that we talked about that because again, I think, and it may not be us, but I think there are parents and there are educators who get very frustrated with certain behaviors, but don't think about, the considerations that something else could be going on. Again, diet. There's so many things that, they're interrelated to being able to do this. But I love specifically that you talked about minimalism, right? So it's focusing only on the text. And I've been talking about this in terms of classroom environment and this learning experience for some time, saying that I think, and it's not in all cases, that the classroom is just so overwhelming. It's so overwhelming when you go into a classroom. Now I get it. As a teacher, you want to decorate your class. You want your class. You have rainbows everywhere. You have, your seating chart, your behavior chart. But when we're thinking about the little mind that is still very much developing, it's too much. And so now I'm expecting you, like you said, to tune your attention into this very black and white page, that the font could be varied, is because they're oftentimes it's not consistent, right? If there are worksheets, if there's a textbook. And now I just want you to focus on this. No matter about your classmates, the classroom, the sounds you're hearing, all of this neurological processing is happening at once. And I'm just expecting you to perform. Just give me the answers, So I love that you brought that up in terms of the optometry and the behavioral and the testing that can be involved. So we got the cards, which I love the backstory, right? It was just an experiment and you created a masterpiece, right? I love the basketball. I love the basketball texture. And I know you know why I say this. So I have boys just like you do. And my middle is like sports fanatic. Like it's basketball and baseball. Like, I mean, he does everything.
Yes.
And for him, it's ironic, but we struggle with reading. And so I'm always telling him like, okay, well, that's fine. Let's just read sports related things. That's all we're going to read.
Good for you.
So when you said that, I'm like, oh, I'm going to get him some of these basketball reading focus cards, because it just makes sense. Boys have different challenges than girls. And I don't want to make it gender specific, but they do. And it's still interest related, right? So I love that you said, yeah, let's do a texture to help. And I don't even want to, say boys because it's not politically correct these days. But, it could be males that, are interested in sports. They'll gravitate to that option. Did you see a lot of that in terms of like the difference in struggles with, the boys versus the girls? Or did you see a lot of, just like you said, the ADHD? Where did you notice that it really benefited the children, to have the cards?
I had a student who was one of 12 children. Wow. And he was like the second youngest. And mom and dad were tired.
Of course.
and he was helped. He had ADHD in a big way. He had medicine, but even with the medicine, it wasn't always, he couldn't attend to what he was asked to do in a classroom. The tools helped him too. But it's important that you don't want to force the use of a tool on a kiddo. And you may need it intermittently, sometimes when they're tired. Sometimes at the beginning of the day, at the end of the day, something, the content might be totally boring to them. So you might need a little bit more focus. So you have to kind of use a little, like you said, empirical judgment, do we use it now or not? And sometimes the best thing to do is to ask the child, because the child, if he has input in the answer, he'll have ownership of whatever is being presented to him.
Totally.
Okay. So, and I need to tell you, the texture we mentioned, anytime you introduce texture, there's something that happens in the brain. And I know that the kiddos will rub the texture, okay? And the regular reading focus cards are velvety feeling, okay? But the textured one that only comes in black, because that's all that's available, the kiddos will rub either surface And that improves the connectivity in the brain that's going on when the reading is being conducted.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So, and I've seen them, it's like a slow massage as they move it down the page. And that's just one more anchor for the brain, we call it.
Yep.
Okay.
It's escaping me right now. I want to say it's related to the RAS signals in the brain. It's the process where, we start to switch on lexicon, like, oh, this is what's happening right now. So it requires that focus and that sensory, right? Oh, I'm touching this. Think about fidget spinners. It's like, just put something in your hand. If I can put something in your hand, I can bring you in. It's genius. It's genius.
Simple. It's so simple.
It's genius. So baby boy, he was the second. It worked for him.
It did.
It worked for him.
Didn't use it all the time, just some of the time.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. These are conversations that, and I know it's getting off track, but still on track. As an educator, middle school is tough. So I substituted middle school.
Okay. I love it.
I loved it too, because it was real, very much different than the babies, right?
Yes.
I'm going to elementary school and I'm actually engaging with them in the out of school time space. But as a substitute, I would typically go to these schools that were inner city, if you will, but to connect with the kids. And it would always break my heart. It's like, Miss, our teacher doesn't explain it that way. That would break my heart. But still being able to engage with them and them to be very candid about their struggles, right? Like, I don't read because nobody's taught me how to read. Like, I don't do that, It is. What do you think? Let me think of the best way to ask this. What do you think is the big push for parents and educators to notice? Because I typically believe that 6th grade is so important because you're coming in, you're not a kid anymore. You got all this responsibility on you. Do you think, like you said, the 8th grade is like, okay, you're leaving and you still don't have these skills. But where do you think is like the aha moment that if we can't get them coming in, do you think that we just lose them and it gets worse? What have you seen in terms of like the parental involvement and support and so forth, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, like in the differences and how that shapes, their academic integrity?
There's so much to say about that. Oh, 6th grade is very important. It's one of those transition years, and not just because it is in some school districts the beginning of junior high or middle school or what have you. There's a lot of physical growth in the children, a lot of maturation or not for some, and there's a lot of judgment between the children. Regardless of the adults in their lives, the children are very judgmental of one another's abilities, appearance, what they wear, how they talk. It's amazing. So 6th grade, yes, is a big transition year. In terms of reading and learning, believe it or not, I'd say 3rd grade is a big transition year.
Oh, totally. Absolutely.
Reason being, they're no longer learning to read, they're reading to learn. And that's the time, age 8, 9, and 10, when issues appear and parents notice that reading isn't happening, or reading grades are dropping, or teachers are saying, he's not able to read at grade level. And all these little problems start popping out. But the children sometimes are brilliant. And this is what is so disturbing to me. They're brilliant children, and they may have something in their processing ability. Dyslexia is a language processing problem. And because of that, it's invisible and it's not readily seen or known about. Many teachers have no training in recognizing or suspecting dyslexia in their undergrad years, and many don't even get it in their master's degree work. Okay, so there's a lot to be learned about this. And when you meet one child with dyslexia, for example, you've just met one child with dyslexia, because one approach might work for him or her, when a different approach would work for a different child with dyslexia.
Right.
So there's so much to be said about that. So back to your question. 3rd grade is big. 6th grade is big. Depending on your situation, usually 8th grade is big, but in many parochial schools, it is a year that's centered around graduating and the activities that are involved with graduation, and the academics sometimes suffer. This varies from one school to another, but the focus for high school in 8th grade has to be being ready to make the leap to high school. And that means being ready to read well, being ready to take notes well, being ready to listen well, being ready to follow through well, and being motivated internally to get the work you're expected to do in high school. And those are things that some parents have difficulty with.
Totally.
Alone teaching those skills to their children. And we cannot really expect the schools to do 100% of the work that the parents need to do. So please keep that in mind. Work together with your schools and your teachers.
I've always said that this is why often I don't point the finger at parents, and I definitely don't point the fingers at teachers, because I'm both. And I understand, again, contrast is necessary, but we should be working together. We're one of the only countries, that says, oh, those are your children, take care of them. You're kind of on your own, whatever. Which again proves, the need for social capital and community. We need community. We need each other. Why else are we here, together at the same time? We need each other. But it does require us to be very, very brutally honest about our circumstance and say, without embarrassment, you just hinted towards it. Children can be cruel. They've been that way forever, and it's because of everything that's going on. They can also be very pleasant and sweet. But when we're talking the truth, we ask them, you talked about that earlier, they'll give us an answer. We have to be willing to accept that. And we also have to teach them and parents, just say you need help.
Right.
Just say you need help. It's not, everybody needs help.
Right.
It's not a big deal. Just say you need help. Say you don't understand. Nobody's going to make you feel bad. And I do get that there are some who will. We understand that.
And parents can ask the teacher, how can I help at home?
Totally.
And don't be afraid to ask your teachers in a very nice way how they can help your child. If you have information they need to know.
Right.
So it's a 3-way set of communications here, and everybody wins when everyone communicates. Especially the child.
Totally. We got some more comments here. Let's see. Okay. Oh my gosh, we have tons of comments here.
Oh, I'm not seeing them. You'll have to tell me.
I will. Okay, so Irie said, in total agreement, we when we're talking about the instruction. So tiered instruction for sure, differentiation, visual learning, and juxtaposition, all in focus as well. It totally works. I get it. It does. It does.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then Kalila said, when we were talking about the basketball texture that you were able, and I will note this, let me say this. In all of our Meet the Author sessions, one of my main focuses with inventing this series is to give our audience some background and some context when we're talking about author's purpose, right? Because it fits into the reading scheme at whole. But when I discovered your system, and I feel some kind of way about marketing too. It's like, yeah, we're not here to market, but yeah, we are. This is something that you developed from a need,
It was a need, yeah.
And the babies have benefited from it. So there are parents who I consistently talk to, they're like, really, Tiff, you do that? You created a system to teach kids how to read, which is strategy based. I'm interested. So it's just, it's okay to, plug our system here. It's go to readandfocus.com.
Thank you.
Focusandread.com. Focusandread.com. Get a system. It makes sense. So this comment, Kalila mentioned, she said, wow, that's wonderful. Often the greatest inventions are created by accident.
Right. Post-it notes.
Totally. Oh my God.
Can't live without them.
Post-it notes now. They are all kind. You can get any kind of post-it note you want.
Yeah.
Totally.
I can't live without them. And, I have to have them at eye level. So you should see my kitchen cabinets. And I'm 6'1". So it's a very interesting looking kitchen.
Wow, Joan. Oh my God. So I want to be like you when I grow up. 6'1".
Well, we are a family of basketball players.
See, now the basketball texture makes even more sense.
Right, I know. But it wasn't my idea. It wasn't my idea. Principals asked for it, school principals.
It makes sense. See, willing to say, you know what, my kids need this, right? Willing to say that. Kalila also said diet, a lack of vitamins affects us in multiple areas. So when we were talking about the optometry, right? Again, we assume that the child is able to perform. And what we don't take into consideration is all of the things that happen prior to, diet, exercise. We're talking about the overwhelm of text and the overwhelm of environment. We're talking about just air quality. I just read an article the other day that talked about how air quality is linked to mental health. Not rocket science, stuff we've known for some time.
Right.
But we're dealing with a lot of stressors. And if adults are having a hard time, come on, we can't expect our kids. So good point, Kalila. Diet, a lack of vitamins affects us in multiple areas.
Right.
Then Irie said, your backstory is so interesting, Joan. Taking a seed of an idea forward to the stage that you're at is phenomenal. I totally agree.
Thank you very much. You too, Irie. I'm so glad you could join us today because I know it's so late there where you are. And it's near Cardiff, I believe, in Wales. So I especially appreciate you tuning in this late hour at your location. Thank you, dear.
I always, when I send her messages or we talk on Skype, I'm all like, are you getting sleep? Because she stays up so late. And I do too sometimes, but I worry, like, did you just get enough sleep? So thank you for saying that. Like, I always tell her, like, you don't have to tune in. And she always goes out of her way. I just love her. Kalila brought back another point, reading to learn. Absolutely. They are brilliant, yet aren't reading on their grade level. I want to talk to Joan about grade level in a second. I just want to read the rest of the comments. And I definitely want to talk about grade level because it's tricky, right?
It is.
It's very tricky. Irie said, your initiatives and tools are needed even more during the transition to blended learning. Absolutely. We talked about the homeschool conversation, right? It's becoming a normalcy. But the reality of it is homeschooling has been normal for tons of people. This isn't new,
right.
It's just being able to support those learners and those parents who are transitioning as a result of what's happening in the world right now, right? On top of the anxiety, on top of all of the concerns. And then Kalila, of course, said, this is an excellent platform to share all information regarding literacy, which is why I'm so grateful that Joan is here with us. And then lastly, Irie said, I'm having a wonderful time. Thank you. All right.
Thank you, ladies, very much.
I know, so appreciative. We're so excited that you're joining. Okay, so let's talk about reading level.
Sure.
This has been something, and again, I get it. We have to prove, right? And we prove with data. Got it.
I know.
But when we're talking about reading on level and level literacy, I guess talk to me just about some of the initial dangers in, saying, hey, you're on this level and you're on that level. Talk to me about some of that, Joan, because I have my opinion, but I want to keep that to myself.
It doesn't just apply to reading, as you well know, as an educator, math and every area, every content area. Some children may be very good at math and have a terrible time with reading and vice versa. Again, you have to meet them where they are, but it's better that the child show where they are rather than they be measured at where they are with testing, especially in their home environment. And as far as grade level, I think I would be more interested in their interest in reading rather than whether or not they're at the grade level that they are. Obviously, they have to be able to read at an appropriate level to move forward in school and just to live their daily lives. But it's something that is stressed perhaps too much, and we forget the children and only think about the reading level or the grade level.
So again, I didn't pay Joan to say that, ladies and gentlemen. I did not pay her to say that. Again, this is why we're doing this. we're on the same page. I wholeheartedly agree. Yes, the goal is high level reasoning, critical thinking, some of these skills, definitely. But when we start to make these assumptions about on level, off level, and we miss that this is about how we are able to process information, how we are able to develop strategies that work and that are real. I think we just missed the whole point of education. To me, I could be wrong, but I wanted to bring that up because here recently I'm working on a new series. I'm working on, launching our new app. It's time for us to digitize it. We have proof of concept. It's time to go. I'm in holding off because it's just me, but I'm like, it's time to go. So I was researching conversion and language conversion. And again, as a communications consultant, it's important because, we want to stay away from appropriation. We want it to be culturally responsive and relative and so forth. We want the text to be adaptive. So I was researching a conversion tool that would give me, words for third grade.
Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I come across this resource and I'm like, yeah, I don't know about this. Every time I try to do this, something's just nagging me. Partly because I believe that children are humans.
Imagine that.
Like, wait, so if I talk to you like, you're a baby. I mean, not that I don't want you to be a baby. You are a baby. But I need to talk to you as if I want you to engage in a conversation.
Very good. Yes.
So if I'm saying that, I'm only going to give you these words to use to express yourself. And I wonder why I'm having these behavioral challenges. Well, yeah, you're feeling unexpressed. So I teeter-totter with that whole reading level. And I did find something that was valuable the other day. It said, pick a book and read a page on the book. If you struggle, like do the five finger rule. If you struggle with, up to 5 words on that page, that book is probably too hard for you. And I was like, that's interesting. Do you have any recommendations in terms of like leveling?
Oh, that's very good. I'm thinking all the time you're saying these things. I hope that parents that have the 5-finger rule in place and are implementing it after they hear you don't stop if their child can't read 5 of the words. I hope that the child has a little input, say, I know that was hard for you, but do you want to keep reading?
Totally.
In words, I wouldn't use it as a stop sign. I'd use it as a goal. Tomorrow, maybe you'll know those 5 words. It might even be an hour from now.
Totally.
So again, don't allow these standard stop signs to keep you from moving forward, because the same thing applies in life when we're not talking about reading. We all have hurdles. We all have challenges. If you have 5 challenges in a day, do you close up shop, go home and go to bed? No.
Yeah.
Okay. You have to keep going. And parents who model that and who encourage their child to keep going, I think that's beautiful. I really do. So important.
I agree. The growth mindset is the mindset that says, you constantly encourage, right? And you never give up. And I was reading an article that actually talked about false growth mindset and how teachers can foster that. And I was like, wow, that's a thing. And it makes sense, it's contrast, but it talked about how even in growth mindset, it can be limiting. And you have to be careful of what you say in response to, that performance or that activity that was, because yes, we're helping children to understand, who they are and why they're doing this whole thing, self-awareness, learning more about the self and how the self responds in different situations is key.
Right.
But you also, like you said, want to encourage them like, well, no, that's not too hard though. I mean, it's reasonable for us to, consider that we can accomplish that if we just spend a week, maybe just 20 minutes a day, on these words. There are always other ways. And when you said modeling, I think, again, this goes back to parents and it also goes back to educators.
Yes.
and again, I don't always want to just bring this up, but here lately, I have a lot of educator friends, a lot.
Me too. Yes.
And a lot of them are very frustrated right now.
I
They're
know.
really frustrated.
Yes.
They're not able to show up their whole teacher self, that enthused and excited.
Uh-huh.
They're just so it's so him haw, like, well, I'm
Yes.
just here.
Right.
I'm here. I'm hoping, one of my kids doesn't have COVID this week. I'm hoping my paraprofessional, makes it in. I'm hoping I don't get my head bit off for making this decision about, how to teach this curriculum.
Yes.
So in terms of modeling, it's these conversations are important, not just for the learners, but for the parents and the educators to again say, listen, the growth mindset and being as positive as possible is important. And yes, we're being realistic. Things are happening in the world. We know that.
Yes.
But to always encourage academic integrity is valuable. Like,
yes.
No, we can do that. We can do that because you are capable of great things. Your mind is capable of great things. It's a machine, So I love that you said that. What do you think about the leveling though? Do you think it's ideal to have learners start at a certain place and have the goal of, accomplishing other levels and progressing to other levels?
Yes, and they should not be, how should we say, they should not be kept all on the same level at the same time. I always think of the Montessori approach.
Yeah.
Let it be student driven. Let the child decide, okay, I'm going to read this book because it's just a little bit harder. Whereas another child might say, I think I need to drop down a level. And you would allow them to do that, but monitor them and say, is it too easy for you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So close interaction with the kiddos and monitoring without nagging or without standing over them like helicopters. It's a fine, delicate balance. But yes, it's important to encourage them to move in the way of improvement, regardless of where they are. But if they're struggling and they're frustrated, that's the thing you got to watch for. They're frustrated. That's negative learning. Okay.
Yeah.
So then drop back, but for a short time, and monitor, observe, ask how they're doing and how they feel. Very important.
Totally.
And when you're on all of this, I would like to mention that there is great data about children doing academically well when they have a lot of background knowledge.
Yep.
And background knowledge, where do you think that is disseminated the greatest, or in the greatest amount of volume in a family? Where do you think that happens?
I mean, just in dialogue.
And at the dinner table.
Totally. Stories.
Yes. And
what happened?
So many of us, and I've been guilty of this myself, on soccer night, on basketball night, okay, and there were nights we'd have 4 games a week, sometimes 8.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, we were eating in the car sometimes.
Yep.
On the way to the game, okay? But long story short, whenever possible, sit down with the family, have a meal together, and not just talk about what did you do in school today. Say, what was the most exciting thing you learned today at school? Or what was something that you never expected to learn today? Something really different, not just how was school today? That's, it was fine.
Yeah, it's broad.
You want something, like you said, you want an engagement of a conversation. So background knowledge is a great predictor. The amount of background knowledge a child has is a great predictor of how well they will do in school. Yeah. It's very interesting to me. And the more you talk at home and the more information you share from a very early age pays off in spades while your child's growing up and when he's fully grown. And he'll learn to become a perpetual student and always seek information about whatever it is he wants to know about.
Totally. I love that. We talk about it all the time in early literacy, and we talk about emergent literacy. The conversation is have conversations with your children. Yes. And I understand again that, this all comes from how we were all raised.
Yes.
Right. I recognized this when I got married. I'm like, oh, wait, I wasn't raised like that. Like, Like, no, we don't do that.
Right.
We talk, we engage. I had a bunch of books. Like, I was totally allowed to ask questions, whereas my husband wasn't. His
Interesting.
parents was like, you don't ask a question you don't have an answer for. And it's like,
Uh-huh.
so
Yes,
a
I
lot
do.
of, yeah, when you think about it, it's like, well, it's that children are seen and not heard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's awareness for parents as well to say your child is a human, right? They're a little human.
Mm-hmm.
And as are you, there are feelings and emotions involved. And you want to get comfortable with sharing that so that you can encourage, afterthought. Well, yeah, what was that like? What did you think about that? And the dialogue is just so important
It
all the
is.
time. My
Right.
my youngest can talk my ear off. And sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I can't right now. But I do,
Yes, I
because he
do.
has something to say. And with
Uh-huh.
boys, this,
Yes, I do.
they need that when they have something to say, they need somebody to listen. They
Right.
really do. Because it's not a lot that but
Right.
when it's interesting to them and they have something to say, it's, oh, okay, I'm listening, sweetheart. They need that.
Yeah.
So I can't say that enough. I talk about it in our story play ebook. I talk about just dialogue. It can be about nothing. Oh, why do you like those toys? What's so different about those toys?
Yes. Right, right.
Love that, Joan. I absolutely love that. Kalila said, children are little people. As parents, we sometimes forget
Yes.
that they have feelings and emotions that need to be engaged. I
Yes.
know. It's tricky being a parent. It really is. It's tricky being a parent, as it is, being an educator. But again, I'm glad that we are in both worlds and that those joining us and supporting both of our platforms understand what goes into it.
Right.
I'm going to
Good
read Iris.
point, Kalila.
Yeah, totally. Iris said, pilot work at schools taught me that there is a hiatus in provision in terms of storybooks written on 4 different reading and comprehension levels. Taking that challenge on board is so rewarding. So Iris system, and a plug on Irie, because I'm about to plug Joan, even though again, this is not about marketing. Yes, it is. Because here's the thing. When I first developed Imagine Read, it was same thing out of a love for children's literature, but it was also like, I don't see any books like this. I'll just write it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And what we have to understand is that, yeah, there are millions of us and we're all having this very different human experience. So the stories that come along with that need to be recorded and, like you said, disseminated. They deserve it. This storytelling is how we've learned generations. Like, that's how we learn. Irie's work is so amazing. Like, it's so amazing. Like, the flitlets is just like, wow, how did you get that out of you?
I know.
It's
I know.
fascinating.
And have you seen her recent illustrations?
Yes,
They're very, very vibrant in color.
they
I think she may have a
are.
new illustrator.
No, totally. And I'm saying to her, Irie, you did this by yourself. Like, can you teach me how to do this? I mean, and she's just chipping away.
Yeah.
When this system comes out, it is definitely something, as Joan has already said, Irie has spent a great amount of time looking into dyslexia and how we can support dyslexic readers with her system. It's fascinating again because she's talking about those different positionings of those kinds of different stories for different readers.
Good.
Because the piggyback on the conversation that you have at the dinner table, right, is we're hoping that you'll be intrigued to go pick up a book.
Right.
You'll want to read more, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's one of our goals. It's okay, we're having this conversation so that you can be interested in learning and doing something new.
Yes.
So I want to talk about both of those together. Well, really, like, this whole conversation of different stories and where you feel focus and read the cards in and of themselves like really, really help. I don't know genre specific, but in terms of like the book layout, do you think, early chapter, like when would you recommend the system? Would you say immediately?
Oh, no. I would wait for a child to demonstrate a particular need. One example is the skill of decoding words, breaking them down into phonemes,
Mm-hmm.
or in some, depending on your method of teaching reading, syllables, your phonics method, it varies from one school district or even one school to another. But anyway, the reading focus cards that we have a notch at the top. And the notch allows you, right here, to place it, if I can put it up here. I'm working backwards, everyone.
Yeah. Isn't it tricky?
This must show I have a coordination problem. Okay.
No, it doesn't.
So, see here? You move it, you get the idea. You move it per phoneme from left to right. And I have to move it from right to left. And you can do it through the window too, okay? Notice the color change?
Yes.
Sorry about the flashing light. You wouldn't have that. That's my overhead light so you can see me better.
Yeah.
But that, you choose the color that goes inside your tool. It all comes unassembled, and you assemble it according to the needs of the reader who will use it. We have a yellow, clear non-glare, notice? It's a frosted one for fluorescent lights in all our classrooms. Oh dear. The ADHD kids can hear them buzz.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, again, sensory.
Right. So, and what do we have in all our schools? Fluorescent lights.
All day.
And then here's the blue. I don't know if you can see that. And these color filters are not colors that I chose because I like them. The behavioral optometrist told me, make sure you include these 3 colors in every set that you have so that everybody has a selection from which to choose, because one will work better than the other for a reader.
Yeah.
Who's challenged. And if your eyes are tired, a particular color may help you better than another.
Wow.
So, I know, it's just really, but see, that changes the stark white page background that's in books and documents. Okay?
Totally.
And while we're at it, if we can talk about this.
Yes.
One of the greatest free tips I can offer you is to print worksheets. And I don't know if this is very visible, but this is a pastel green sheet. And one of the best things to do is to get yourself a ream of 4 or 5 pastel colors from Staples, Office Max, Office Depot, wherever your office supply store is near you. And you can get it in one package, 5 colors, and try a different color each week, printing the worksheets, math worksheets even, okay? Print them and just give it to your child. And you don't even have to say anything about it, but at the end of the week, say, what'd you think about those worksheets on pink paper? And they'll give you input, and they say, I didn't like them. I said, okay, we're going to try a different color next week. So you try the pastel blue in the package, or that one was the pastel green. But I have an adult client who told me, Joan, once you told me that, I printed everything on pink paper, and now I know exactly what I read. I comprehend it, and I retain it so much longer. She said, I never heard of something like that before you told me about it. And it's so simple.
It is simple. Okay. Now I'm trying to think of the terminology of how we associate color, but it is simple. It is simple. I love that. I love that.
It wouldn't work for everyone, but it's certainly worth a try.
Totally.
Okay. Totally. It cost me about $7, $8 for a ream of paper like that. But if you don't use it for that, you find it doesn't help, then you can try a different font color on white.
Totally.
People respond to blue font.
Yeah.
Blue text on white ground, something beige with purple. It varies. It's all empirical, and you have to try different things. Teachers have such a hard time getting any time to experiment with anything, let alone for 30 students. So parents, help your teachers out. Teachers, be ready to accept information parents give you that they've observed at home. So it's everybody will win.
Yeah, totally. All hands on deck. I just love it. I can't believe we've been talking for 59 minutes. I want to reiterate, if anybody has questions, definitely pop them in the chat for us. I'm gonna flash some more information. I want you guys to please follow Joan, follow Focus and Read. Right now, if you go to the website, which is beautiful, by the way, we were talking about that a little bit ago, there is an opportunity for you to go right to the website at focusandread.com, enter your email address, and you're going to get some tips, similar to the ones that she shared today. I'm sure there are like tons more. Do that, like engage with Joan on a couple different IG, Facebook. There are a couple different pages. I'm going to make sure that the links are all copied below the video here. And of course, I'm going to download it and make it available on YouTube. Tell us, going to the site, they can order it. But when they order the system, do they just get one card or is it several cards?
Good question. We want them to be ready to read anything in print. So there will be short lines of text, as in books with 2 columns of text on a page, biology, social studies, okay? And then there is a short reading focus card, and a long reading focus card in what we call the combo pack. And we really do not care to sell them separately. We're holding readers back when we do that, because invariably people will take a short card and try to read a long line. Here's the short one. See the difference?
I do.
Okay. And here's the long one. It doesn't even, here, I'll sit back. Okay. And this is for long lines of text. This is for short lines of text, because you do not want to do any of this.
Totally.
Unless you're decoding words.
Totally.
You want to go straight down the page with what you're doing. So can you see how this works with a book having 2 columns of text? If you turn it this way, it's awesome for column addition, long multiplication, long division.
Is.
Awesome. And if you want to do that, depending again on your math method, leave the colored filter out so you can carry the digit and write it at the top of the column.
We are working on that right now. 5th grade. Oh my goodness. We are working on that right now. Okay. So I'm sold.
Because so many times the kiddos have a wiggly line of numbers and they add the wrong or they subtract the wrong number and they can't understand why they got the wrong answer.
Exactly. Placement. I get it. Oh my gosh. So we not only have a literacy solution, but we have a math literacy solution.
Right. And
that's
then there's
phenomenal.
an app. There's a desktop app that does these things too, only to an even greater degree. And it's so inexpensive in the Mac App Store and in the Windows Store and on Gumroad.com. But you can get all of that on focusandread.com.
Wow. I am blown away. Look, Iris says, thank you both for the inspiration, knowledge sharing, and super time. I am encouraging. I don't have my set yet, and I'm being transparent, but I will. Okay. And once I do, we're going to use them and I am going to report my feedback, because here's the thing.
Awesome.
When I go out and I meet people, I'm always talking about literacy. It's to the point where, a couple of people have been like, you need to have fun. Like you're always taking it so serious. It's a serious thing for me. Yeah. I don't like the fact that children don't know how to read. It's a big deal. Right. Yeah. So when I am going out, I always like to talk about solutions that work, especially strategies, because when we're talking about reading as a system, you need strategies. We need to empower our learners with strategies. So I am excited about getting my set. And I would encourage everyone, go to the website. If you do nothing but just sign up for the emails, you get the tips. Get the tips. Teacher, parent, community organizer, it doesn't matter who you are. Do it. Right. Joan.
And I will tell you that it's fine if they give me a call, if they want to talk about a specific child's challenges. For obvious reasons, we're not putting the phone number up here.
Totally.
But the phone number's on the website. Give me a call. I'll give you a 15-minute free consultation and we can go from there.
See, amazing. These are real solutions. I'm in awe. I can't say enough, Joan. Thank you so much. Kalila said we need 2 sets, one for me. I know, Kalila, I'm with you. That's why I'm like, wait a minute. I think I'm about to go back to my romance novels.
Late at night, right?
Totally. Like,
yes, I know.
It's so, because it's, how it's stimulating, it's relaxing, and you can just dream a little. So this has been amazing. I can't wait to get the sets. Seriously, can't wait to demonstrate and just give feedback. Thank you for engaging with us and all of your ingenuity. It's been wonderful. It's been
my
wonderful.
Pleasure.
Totally.
My mother always said, Joan, go find a need and fill it. Boy.
Totally. What else are we here to do, Joan?
You know,
everything else is so boring.
keep your innovative thinking cap on.
Yes, indeed. And this
Yeah.
is, again, as we move forward, technology is here. Will still have new problems to solve, you know, and that is the place and position that education holds. We can solve these human problems. So thank you so much, Joan. I can't say enough. Going to be posting, the post interview. Thank you to everyone who has joined us this evening. I hope you get some really good rest tonight.
Yes. Thank you, dear, for coming.
Yes. Indeed. And we will talk again soon. Thanks so much.
Sounds great.
Have a good evening.
Bye now.
All righty.